All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Black Male Survival Guide. Our mission on this show is to educate black men, particularly black men and boys in the state of South Carolina, about the emergent wisdom concerning black politics and the black community at large. And today, our topic is going to be voting, and the title Is Voting the New Prayer? And leading this topic is going to be Mr. Unseen. And we have two guests today, Mr. Vidya, who has a particular insight on this subject, especially because of the last election in North Charleston here and his involvement in that election. And we also have Mr. Nameless, who will be chiming in every now and then. But since this was Mr. Unseen's idea, he's going to lead the way. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Mr. Unseen.
Thank you. I want to begin by saying I have a subtopic that goes along with this, and it's pretty general. And what we want to do is ask the question: what is being political, and how does that play into your politics? And what I wanted to begin with, and it's so sad that we have to go all the way back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I was scared I lost my thing. It's sad we have to go way back before any of us were born because at the time in the 60s, people had to answer. So I wanted to start with H. Rap Brown, and if you could please play my clip for me, Miss Iron Fist, that first part, and then I'm going to talk about that a little more. Okay, I can see it.
Okay.
People are concerned and oppressed people in this country. Politics, we have to have a reevaluation of politics. See, we've been taught to think that when the word politics is mentioned, that we're talking about Democratic and Republican Party. That's not the case. See, politics concerns everything that you do. Everything that happens in your life is political. The real question is, whose political end does it serve? If it does not serve your political end, then it is not beneficial for you to be political in that fashion.
And that's my first part right there. If you look at what this man is saying way back before they can put color on pictures, it's a prescription to what we have had every 4 years since this man was a damn near teenager at the time. And we miss it every 4 years. And that's where I wanted to start to open up the conversation. And then we're gonna go on to and it's funny, Mr. Iron Fist brought it up because he wanted to bring up the political chump, and that's the next thing in my notes that we'll go to. But what did you guys think about that comment and how it plays in with our politics in the current time?
I think that, I mean, he's basically saying what ADOS is saying, what FBA is saying, what people like Jason Black is saying, what Professor Black Truth is saying. I think New Black Media really is the continuation of the pro-black movement. And unfortunately, just like the pro-black movement back in those days, where I don't think enough black people listened to the right people, I think the same thing is happening today. And it's almost like we're in this cycle. So I think that's why we can go back and listen to it and say, yeah, he's right, because we haven't learned the lesson. We haven't learned the lesson, and we're making the same mistake over and over again. So that's what I think about it. But I'll let other people chime in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, what he's saying is that we- we're we're not we can't see the bigger picture. For the most part, everything is political, and they don't see the connection with their everyday life to the macro, what's going on in society, and not understanding that if we're able to connect those two things, we can progress. But unfortunately, black people are in survival mode to the point that they can't see they can't see the forest for the trees. They can't see the larger picture, and understanding that there's a political angle to everything, the choices that they think that they're making or allowed to make. So, yeah.
I'll also say that the foundation of politics is force, is the threat of force, and the trump card of some kind of military action. And I think the January 6th protesters in some ways demonstrated that. And I think it's rather apt that we see an image of H. Rap Brown in the video as a photo of him holding a rifle, and because the Black Panthers understood that the peace can only exist if you can defend yourself, and you can defend yourself in a way that is comparable to other people, at least, to where you can at least hold them to a stalemate. And I think that's the other part that I think a lot of black people forget is that uh, you can't go into politics without anything to leverage. You know, for a long time we could leverage our population numbers, and that's coming to an end with the mass immigration that's coming. At one time, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, like at one time we were always number two when it comes to population in this country. And was it like around the early 2000s when Hispanics started outnumbering us? Pretty soon Asians are going to start outnumbering us. And then when you couple that with us not cohabitating as much anymore, with the abortion rates, us not having as many children, we're going to lose political power. So we have a double whammy. We're losing political power because of really screwed up culture that we have, and also we're becoming less popular. We have a less. Our population is starting to become lessened. So, you know, we have to take all that into account when we're voting, and I just don't see black people doing that. You know, we've almost turned voting into like a religion. You know, that's why I think it's like the title says, has voting become the new prayer? Is it just a gesture that we do? Is it just something symbolic that we do to make us feel better about ourselves because our ancestors died for our right to vote? But it doesn't really accomplish anything because we don't think about it as warfare, because it's really what it is. It's warfare without the weapons. You're trying to get resources, and we just don't see it that way. And it's really rather annoying. It annoys someone like me because I can see the potential, and we will never be able to capitalize off that potential because we just don't have our minds in the right place. But let me shut up and let other people chime in.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that, that idea of, voting as a prayer, it was for a long time. I see that the climate the attitude is starting to change. I think, you know, unfortunately, I think that with the number, aspect that you bring up about our numbers dwindling, and at one time we were number two, now we're number three behind the Hispanics. I think it's a bad thing and a good thing because unfortunately they have to, black people have to see it. You can tell them all day, but they have to see it and feel it. And I think they'll start to acquiesce and start understanding that group economics will benefit them more so, as like the Jewish community where they circulate their dollar. Once we start seeing that, the old way is not working and our numbers are dwindling, then we're going to start have to double back and, understanding that group economics is the best hand to play right now.
I mean,
Um,
that might be true, but I think by the time enough black people will wake up to that, it's going to be too late. And I think that's the issue that we're facing, is that we're in a race against time. And
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I didn't mean to cut you. Sorry,
Oh no, you're
but
good. That was the only point I really wanted to make.
yeah. I mean, I agree that we're in a race against time in a sense, but the thing of it is that um, the tides is turning. I mean, us being in Charleston, South Carolina, when the president of the United States comes here and speaks at Mother Emanuel, like he did this past week to try to gin up more black support. It's, you know, unfortunately, it's not. panning out the way that they're wanting. I'm watching the MSNBC and seeing them interviewing the average voter here, the average voters that are here, and a lot of them are disenchanted, and a lot of them are like one voter said that they're upset that they don't see themselves voting for Biden because he didn't live up to his promise of the student aid.
But see,
Uh,
here's a problem with that though. Here's a problem. The problem with that is, one, we needed that 4 years ago when it really mattered, and then two, if they're still talking about things like student aid and not reparations, they're still behind. That's the problem. That's the problem I see with that. Now, granted, it's only one voter that we mentioned, but still, like, okay, if we don't know if he was weeded out and they found that particular person to talk about that particular issue, we don't know. But the larger point I'm trying to make is that we're always behind the curve, and if we can't catch up fast enough, that's why I say we're in a race against time. You see, Biden has already had his 4 years to do his damage. He probably brought in record numbers of immigrants for all we know. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I'm assuming that we've seen it, just busloads of migrants coming over here, of illegal aliens coming over here. He's already done his damage. That's why these black people in New York and Chicago and places like that are complaining. He's already done his damage. And now black people want to say we needed them on that page 4 years ago. We really need them on that page 30 years ago.
Yeah, but the thing of it, I agree. I mean, but unfortunately, a lot of them are distracted. They believe in the idea of integration. They believe in this idea of integration, thinking that once we're integrated, that the resources are equally dispersed, which is not the same thing. Just because.
But I think here's the thing. I think one can be for integration, but to be for integration, you would also have to be for reparations. Irami Osei Frimpong says it all the time. He's like, I'm not against integration. I just don't want to integrate on my knees like how we have been doing. You need to integrate them goddamn them paychecks, them checks. Integrate them checks. You know what I'm saying?
I think an important part people are not you're kind of missing is you've already been integrated. That happened in the 70s.
About two different things. Socially we've been integrated. But when you listen to someone like Irami Osei Frimpong, he explains it. He was like, look, they integrated us in a way that would benefit them the most and benefit us the least. So when he says we integrated on our knees, what he means is all the places where you would have power as a real American, you don't really have power. You're it's kind of like what Bobby Wright said. Everything that's associated with your well-being is tied to another community. You don't have any real control. And that's why so many people are pushing for reparations. Like, look, at least if we have reparations, if we wanted to go do our own shit, we could. But if we wanted to integrate both genetically and socially, we could do that too. At least you have the money to do it. At least you have some options. So that's what Irami is saying. Technically we integrated. They changed some laws. But, what was that 10% rule? They give us talented 10th or whatever. That's what they did. And then when I talk to older black people or even young black people sometimes, and I'm having these conversations, they can't see it. They think because you can go eat at McDonald's and you don't have a Confederate flag wearing, neo-Nazi in your face all the time calling you the N-word, that somehow, we've made it. No, you don't get it. You just spent your money at an institution that was created probably before segregation. And it's a $1 billion institution that's enriched, tons and tons of white families, and that's what your competition is. And you're happy because you can go there, you eat a cheeseburger for $17 or however much it costs now. You know what I'm saying? You can get a Happy Meal for $12 or whatever. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about real integration. Yeah, we haven't been integrated. That's the problem. It's not real integration. It's not real integration.
I hear you. It's semantics. The point I'm making is, like you said, you explain my point. You're technically integrated, right? You've cut off all options of doing everything else. All your eggs are in the basket of you living here, right? So, in whatever you do, it's tied up in that every solution you're gonna have is gonna have to be with what happens with you and your group here in America and how you operate and do your politics. But I wanted to ask, man, play my next part, and it's going to talk about what we're talking about right now and what he said about how we're looking at integration and you being political.
So you want me to play Malcolm X or the next part of H. Rap Brown?
The next H rap round, please.
Okay. All right. So that'll be the 3:12 through 4 minute mark. All right. Here we go.
Situation as students, secondary, and as being oppressed first. And the skills that you acquire as a result of being education, how can we utilize those skills to eliminate that oppression? That becomes the question for students. Again, when you begin to understand the whole system of education in this country, see, whatever you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Anything that you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Education has been used as a weapon against black people because black people have been trained to think a certain way. See, we do not control politics, so politics as it's known in this country is a weapon against black people. And we begin to examine what politics is, we find out it's no more than the apex of white cultural aggression, nothing more. When a man tells you that you can only become free through voting, then he is restricting your mobility, he's restricting your freedom. You were born free. You must exercise your rights to be free. See, that man cannot give you freedom. But when he restricts an individual and tells him that he can only become free by voting, then he has denied you your freedoms. He says this is politics. The only way you can become free is by being political in the white sense, or in the sense of this country. But politics in this country, you see, the whole thing, it refers again back to what Camus once raised.
That's good enough right there. And the main point that I wanted to pull from that he was talking about is someone is giving you have a problem here in this country, even if you want to say just in this box. We don't even have to look at global politics. And someone's come to you in your life and said, well, the way you get this problem solved is you vote for something. And it seems like people with this guy, he's an old man now. But he's saying this is like, you know, a very young man at the time, long ago before we were born. And he put the rules down. But now that understanding is you still vote for everything. You still vote for anything. And I always like every time y'all listen to me, listeners, I'm going to bring up the boycott. Because it's a non-violent, yada, yada, no get banned. I don't want nobody to hurt anybody. But here's the way, saving your money is a way to be political. But we don't promote that like we do voting. There's nobody say get your booty to the bank. Your money out. But I'll let you guys go ahead and say something, man. Please.
I think that I get what you're saying, Mr. Unseen. But I think it's one of those things where you have to play the cards that you're dealt. You know, we weren't enslaved in South America or Canada or Russia or Japan. We were enslaved in North America. This is the system that we were born in. So when this is the one thing I disagree with him. When he says you're born free, I don't agree with that. I don't think you're born free. As a black person in this country, you're not born free. You're born with a lot of things working against you when you're born into this country, especially if you're a black man. Especially if you're a black man. So you're not born free. Wait, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. So I get where you're coming from. This is the system that we were born in. This is the system we have to deal with. So when we have these types of conversations, I'm not one of these people who say, okay, voting is pointless or you shouldn't vote or whatever. I'm saying if you're going to do it to the best of your ability. Do it in a way that benefits you the most. Don't do it like how the topic is. Don't make it into a symbolic gesture that doesn't help us. That's my issue. You see what I'm saying? So I get the whole meta commentary about, look, we didn't create the system, and they're saying, hey, you know, they're saying that you need to vote for your freedom. I get that. I get that. What I'm saying is that's a whole different topic. That's like saying, hey, that's like some. If black people wanted to be something different to this system, that's a whole different conversation. That's a military conversation. That's some you know, Che Guevara Fidel Castro conversation, and we ain't built like, we just ain't built like that. We're not. We don't have that type of
Well,
mobility. We just don't.
oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna say, I took it as when he said we were born free. I took it as word you're born, the word freedom. Free dumb. You being dumb. Everyone's born free. Um, but if you want to progress and succeed in the society, then you're gonna have to get some type of education, which you have to pay for, or you have to buy into some sort of system to the point that you're making, meaning that either you're going to buy, adhere and succumb or try to integrate into a system of the American system, or you can take the Black Panther route, and try to be self-sufficient and in that Che Guevara way that you're talking about. Um, Black people have a choice. They have to. They really, a lot of people don't want to take on that responsibility. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people see black skin either as a costume or a uniform,
Or
and
a curse.
they, yeah, I mean, either way, it could be a curse. I mean, they just don't want to take on that responsibility. Um, they just want to either play games, watch movies, listen to music. They don't want all that extra stuff. That was the one thing when I moved down here is that I was confronted with. A lot of people thought I was just angry and militant just because I was pointing out things that should have been obvious to a lot of people. A lot of people just want to be dumb. They don't want to deal with that. They just want to live their life, and because they understand you only have a finite amount of time on this planet, and they don't want to. They really don't want to take. They don't want the headache. But yeah. But a lot of people like yourself, and a lot of other people, who get educated and understand, like, this is not right, this system is right, and they want to do their best or do whatever they can to fix or try to build their own institution or own branch of system that they can flourish in. But that's the choice that we've always had ever, since 1619. We have a choice to either deal with it or try to fight it. And a lot of people, they give it up to God, and that's that's the reason why our votes become prayers.
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately agree, but I also think that, I think black people have to be realistic about our situation. Um, the idea of the black nation within the nation, I don't think that's feasible anymore. Maybe if back in the 60s you had like 40% of black people really going hardcore with either the Black Panthers or the Nation of Islam, and they stuck with it, we could make those arguments today. But we have to accept the fact that most black people are integrationists. My thing is, I agree with Irami, Osei, Frimpong. Don't integrate on your knees. Don't like quit. Kind of like how you were saying, Mr. Vidya, when you were trying to get people to understand why they should vote for John Singletary, and they were saying they don't want to like upset their white friends or whatever. That's the kind of shit that makes me mad. It's like we have a legacy in this country. We should be proud of that legacy. We should use that legacy to get what we freaking deserve. That's what I don't like. I don't have a problem with people wanting to be a part of this system. You know what I'm saying? Because they were nurtured to be a part of this system. Their blood is in the soil of this country. They helped build this country, whether were the lowest people to do it or not. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, don't be, like you said, don't be free dumb when we do the politics. Don't be stupid. Get the money, get the check, get the money. Get the money, we can figure out this other stuff later. At least get the money. It baffles me. It's like for a part of the culture that, that prides itself on what were they doing a few years ago where they were putting the money stacks to their ear You know what I'm saying? Like it was a cell phone. You know what I'm talking about? Those rappers and stuff like that. I'm like, get the money. I shouldn't hear stories like, oh, I didn't want to offend my white friend. What the hell? What? Get the money. Get the reparations, man, and let's figure something out. I really should figure it out before you get the money. But damn, at least get the money. At least have the mindset to get the money. Not, oh, you pay for my student aid. One would argue that okay, that translates to money, but not really, because most black people don't go to college. Most black people don't have student debt. That's what they always throw something out there in front of us that only affects 10-20% of black people, but doesn't help most of us. And that's my issue, man. It's like our priorities are off. It's like when I hear stuff like that, and then I see like Gen Z and Gen Alpha being less, black conscious. I'm almost like, man, good, because if we're not going to use black consciousness to its fullest extent, to its full potential, why even have it? Just give it up. Why even have it? If it's just going to be wearing some dashikis and waving a flag and
doing the electric slide,
doing the electric slide, or voting because our ancestors died for our right to vote, but we're not voting for power, for influence. You know what I'm saying? To build institutions. Then what's the point? Let it go, man. There's no reason to have it, because it doesn't serve anybody.
It's symbolic.
I have to disagree.
Symbolic. Yeah, it is, man. It's symbolic. That's all it means now. Because if Joe Biden can come and say you ain't black if you don't vote for me, and somebody from the outside can dictate that statement, and we don't just because you said that, we're not gonna vote at all. I'm not saying you should.
And in record numbers, they came out for that motherfucker.
That means that being black doesn't mean anything. We need to make a new. No, it don't. If the motherfucker can come and say that shit and get away with it, man. And we we go out for record numbers and vote for a person who said that did us a lead.
That goddamn bitch, Hillary Clinton, went on the Breakfast Club and said something about she keeps some hot sauce in her purse, and motherfucker still went out and voted for her.
Listen, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just saying that, if black people allow, well, I don't, but if black people allow their blackness to be reduced to an identity, and co-op by, other groups who think, who pronounce their pronouns and stuff like that, and not understanding that, being black is much more than that. It's, then that's on them. But I think it's due to a lack of knowledge. I just really do think it's due to a lack of knowledge. And a lot of people, like I said, they can't see anything. They don't see the greatness and the greater in that, because they're, like I mentioned earlier, it's that they're distracted by survival. They have to survive, and to survive in this system, and you have to adhere to their institutions and stuff like that. Until we produce an alternative, they're going to continue doing that. I mean, but it's all the reason why they vote is out of survival.
I wanted to ask something, man, and he brings up in the video, because black people weren't black people; they were Negroes a short time, and he mentions this in this video. We had another, like my grandma's colored, she ain't black. My mom is a Negro.
Yeah,
I'm black.
Yeah,
my
African
niece is African American. And now the youngest people of my family are people of color.
Yeah.
All of these get the same bullshit results, but they inherently mean something to us and show some type of progress, because different groups are calling us a different name. There's no political power in it. So if he can say you ain't black or whatever, if black is a political construct and the construct has no political power, you might as well not even say that. Call me giraffe now.
No, I see what you're saying.
Because technically, if you want to be respectful, and let me finish, just straight up call me an African, because
I,
that's
I
where I
see
came
what you,
from.
I see what you're saying, but that again, that goes back to my, what I mentioned earlier is about the level of understanding and knowledge of that person. Most people who are interested, if you ask the average person, average black person, anything about their culture here, history, heritage, anything like that, it's surface level. It's surface level. All they know is that the white man did this to us. But if you ask him to give you specifics, they wouldn't know anything. They don't know anything, and that's the reason why they fall victim to a Biden going on the Breakfast Club saying, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Because a lot of people don't, they know the names, like my wife used to comment about her cousin, a black guy, was at work and this white guy was asking him, sparked up a conversation about Malcolm X, and then he was asking him questions thinking that he would know the answer to these questions, but he didn't know anything about Malcolm X. He knew the name. He knew, if he saw him in a picture, he could, if he saw him in a lineup, he can point him out. But the thing of it is that he didn't read no autobiography of Malcolm X or anything like that. He's never listened to his speeches. That's the thing. What I'm saying is that the level of understanding when it comes to black people, they don't know. They really don't. I mean, and I would love to
I got
do
to
this
push
for the.
back a little bit on that, Mr. Vidya, because I think that I'm not saying that every black person is like super well read and they know all the facts about what happened in the past with Black history and stuff like that. But I don't think that when Biden said if you don't vote for me you ain't black, that somehow tricked black people into voting for him or something like that. I think most black people didn't like it. I think that the issue is that black people have a very like 1, 2, 3 checkers way of doing politics. It's like, yeah, I don't like that he said that, but I hate Trump and Trump's racist, and World War III is going to happen if Trump wins again. So I'm going to vote for Biden. What's the saying? The devil type
Yeah,
of
well,
voting. I think
that's
that's
the
what really
point I'm
happened.
making.
I don't. It's not because
No,
they lack
no, no,
knowledge
you,
of Malcolm X or what he did or what he means to the
no,
culture. Because even if they don't know all the details, they understand what he means for the culture.
no, 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 no,
They were
no,
willing
no.
to give him a pass because they hated Trump so much more and they hate Republicans so much more. We have this very elementary way of doing politics, and I think that's part of the issue.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. The reason why everything you just said just supported everything. The point I'm making. The point being is that you have to know the details. You have to know the details so you can understand how you got here. A lot of black people don't know how they got here. They know of slavery, but they don't know the economic devastation it did to the black community, to that legacy that persists on today. They don't. They literally believe that they know that there's some there's some issues and inequalities, but they don't account it to being black. They think some of it, but for the most part, they believe that, hey, if I work hard enough and but they don't know this stuff is systematic. They don't know how we got here. They really don't. I mean, if you're going to start any business, you first got to understand. You got to at least understand the fundamentals of starting a business. So, and to grow that business, you got to first understand and study other businesses so you can grow that. The reason why I'm saying that is that black folks don't know how they got where we're at right now. They don't understand how that the average black family only makes $13,000 versus their white counterparts, which is 100,000. They don't understand. They don't. They know it's due to slavery, but they don't know the details of how they got there. Because if they did, then they wouldn't be subjected to. Because the reason being is that's the reason why Biden understands that a lot of black people don't know that. So when he makes a flippant comment like, "If you don't vote for me, you're not black," it's going to resonate, and he can point to the devil because they don't know who the devil is. If I
Well,
point and say, "Hey, he's the one who robbed you," and you don't, and your back is turned, and you turn around and I just point to this guy, and you can be like, "Oh yeah, he's the one who robbed me." You're gonna
Yeah.
start running
No,
after him,
I'm
or
sorry.
you're gonna start voting for that
I
person,
disagree.
or start pushing that person.
I
And that's
disagree.
what.
I disagree. I think black people know who the devil is. They're
No,
just
they
not.
don't.
They're just not
No,
willing.
they don't.
Wait. They're just not
No, they
willing.
don't.
They're just not willing to acknowledge the devil inside the party that they have historically been a part of for the last 70 to 80 years. They're not willing to acknowledge that devil, and they think that the devil on the other side is greater. And like Malcolm X is about to tell us, you know what I'm saying? That devil is not necessarily greater. In fact, that's a good segue. I'm gonna play this video, then we'll continue on. But this
Well,
is
I would like to ask.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Before we go into that, I would like to ask uh, Nameless to has he listened to Malcolm?
Go ahead, Nameless. Nameless. Did you are you even paying attention, Nameless? He asked you a question.
Yeah, what's the question?
Have you listened to a full speech of Malcolm X?
I have not. I technically have, but it's been so long I don't remember it.
Okay. Your knowledge of Malcolm, do you? Okay. Let me ask you this: are you familiar with his political beliefs about him going to going to the UN and anything like that? Do you know about that or?
I don't remember much about it. I remember way more about Martin Luther King than him. To be honest with you.
Okay. What thank you. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is that they, like I said, the majority of black people know their knowledge their knowledge of black anything is from what white people promote and let them know. Hence, that's the reason why Biden was allowed to say, and it didn't offend those who are in the know. I mean, who aren't in the know. When he said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Like a person like yourself or me, who are knowledgeable about what's going on, about how we got here. Yeah, we're gonna be like, what the hell? That's crazy.
There's not a black people or person alive in America that didn't have an ancestor that was alive in the civil rights movement that should have told them. Why didn't your parents tell you, man? And you don't have to read no book for that. Like, we saw these people go out here and understand they got beat to death so you can sit in the restaurant. They don't have to be complicated. But to have your kids be ignorant of that very thing happening until they get to a school and somebody else's group tells them what happens is a problem of our own.
I was just about to say, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? But before we get off too much on a tangent, I also wanted to ask, because I can see, look, watch this. I could do the same thing. Now, one can argue because he hangs around me. Mr. Nameless. If I said, hey, there's a possible avenue to reparations if we boycott the Democratic vote, and I laid it out for you, you know what I'm saying? What would you say?
Let's say I'd be least interested to listen to it because that could be an opportunity that could at least, even if it's just super selfish, it'll at least help me in the end. Even if I don't want to help all the rest of me, I'm still getting money. So I mean, either way, I mean, that'd be a win-win for me because I get to help out my community and I get to help out myself. So
see, that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Vidya. You don't have to have all this detailed knowledge of what happened to Malcolm X in the 60s or in the 50s. We're talking about basic self-preservation. And then when you talk to these motherfuckers, right? And you're like, hey, these goddamn Democrats have been fucking us over for the last 70 years. Well, I don't know. That Trump, he sure is evil. Yeah, but motherfucker, we need to try to get reparations. Oh, reparations, that sounds like begging to me. Why don't you just go out there and work hard? That's what we're fucking dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. You can educate a million people on what happened to Malcolm X. If they think reparations is begging, or if they have some kind of hang up about being black and they don't want to offend their white friends because you dare say the word reparations, that's deeper than just not knowing shit. We're talking about self-preservation here. We're talking about, like, you know, our fucking genocide. We're talking about not existing in the next 100 years as a people.
Or our kids not being able to get a job in the next couple of years.
I laugh because what you're saying is, again, proves my point. I mean, like I said, you only care about something that you know about. And a lot of black people don't know about it. That's the reason why they don't care about it. Hence, that's the reason why they're willing to be, they're easily taken by someone who says anything to them. They don't care about blackness.
Sorry.
Here's a better way of looking at it. And Mr. I think he's right, man. Because it might be more money and survival in America not caring about blackness than there is caring about blackness for the individual on a short-term run.
I'm just letting you know what you're saying only works on paper. If you try to, because that was the thing that, you know, Johnson Gutierrez was having when he wrote something. He went out there and specifically sat down with people and told them, this is what's going on in the community. It fell on deaf ears because why? Because they didn't care about, I mean, you can sit there and do what you just did with with Nameless, and just say, hey, I got a plan and this is what I want to do. The reason why it fell on deaf ears on a lot of people is because they believe that, okay, that sounds cool. They don't believe in it. They don't. And it's because they don't care about it.
It's not ever just that.
I wanted to add, man, one thing that we have to look at, man, and I'm guilty of this as well, right? Mr. Video, you already have a plan for your life, and you might have the next 15 years planned out, and then I come to you with an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And you already got your money invested, you already got everything in your life full swing, and if you remember, your group and our group we're deep in our projects, and then a third person, say no names, come and say, hey, I got a better idea, and literally pulled us off our paths, and it yielded nothing. So a lot of times, if you're already, I think a lot of black people as individuals know, I already have a problem, and I already have a plan, and then somebody else comes and says, do this. Now, like I said, when it comes to voting, if you already cut out time from your job or whatever to go in there, whoever you put on paper in a booth is a different conversation. But as far as the way black people are maneuvering, especially the men, we have to really look at what's going on. And we look at what people do and what people say, and it's not lining up. You know?
That's all I'm saying. Miss me with the pro-black shit. If when we go vote, we do the most elementary, 1, 2, 3 checkerboard politics possible, that tells me you're not serious. You're not serious, and I don't think no amount of like black history and learning that, hey, your people were slaves and these bad things happened to Malcolm X is going to change that, because believe it or not, Mr. Villa, whether they know every little detail, most black people, especially our age, I don't know about people Nameless's age, they got the gist of it. They know the basics. Yeah, they know the basics. You know what I'm saying? So here's my issue. My issue is this. I don't think it's as simple as Joe Biden said, hey, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, and somehow most black people agree with that. I've literally listened to black people tell me, hey, look, I don't agree with that. I don't like what he said, but Trump is much worse. They actually think Trump is worse. See, that's what I think the issue is that, again, going back to the title of this show, they've made being a Democrat a religious practice. They can't see politics without being, I'll never forget this. We were at a Chinese restaurant. This had to be like 10 years ago. We were hanging out with our friend. What's his name? Mr. Pimpan. When he's on here. We were hanging out with a friend, and he invited one of his friends who I had never met. And we were talking, and this time I was really challenging religion. I was on Christians' asses about that Bible and all the contradictions in it. I was on that shit. I was getting his ass on that stuff. because he was like super religious. Then he started talking about politics, and even back then I wasn't as adept as now, but I was, back then I was like, man, fuck Obama, fuck that motherfucker. I was on that type of shit. Like, that motherfucker ain't do shit for us, and everyone was calling me a coon. You know what I'm saying? But even now, I'll never forget this as long as I live. We were sitting at that table. He was like, I was born a Democrat. I'm like, born? Listen to yourself.
How is that even possible?
How are you born a Democrat? Dude, you were raised to be a Democrat. You weren't born a Democrat. In that sense, H-Rap Brown is right. You're free. You don't know shit. You're right too, Mr. V. You're free. You're dumb. You're free dumb. You don't know nothing. You were raised in that environment. And I think that's the problem, man, is that we've turned this thing. Who was it? I should have found a video for this. You guys keep talking. I'm going to find a video real quick.
Oh yeah, another thing you guys are kind of forgetting is like now, compared to like any other time in history, black people have some of the most luxuries they can technically get now. It's like there now I can get a house. That's good enough. Like some people are just to a point where they're satisfied with what they have, that they're not willing to take the risk of trying to die in the streets again to maybe get more. That's what I feel like the position a lot of black people are in.
I gotta throw something on that, man. And there's the sad part that people don't know. Because we don't keep up with the data, that door closed, man. That's why some of the struggles that you and I talk about, that's why you're having them. Your chances of getting a house and things like that, man, have gotten a lot worse. Or owning it, you might be able to live in a house, but owning it and giving it to your children, that got a lot worse. It got a lot harder a long time ago. And there's the other problem. If this man, and it's one of the points of the video. If dude is telling people this is how things work, and it's not like the person doesn't have to be perfect. But he says it in another part. You need to be able to reference and cross-reference information given to you. If someone tells you something, you go look it up. Right? If someone tells you something, they're supposed to give you what they say, and they're supposed to give you the proof of why it's true. There's number one. You shouldn't be able to make a claim. I shouldn't be able to call you an idiot without 3 reasons why I think you're an idiot. Right? And if you can refute my claims, then you're not an idiot. But people are able to just yell that you're something now, and now you're supposed to go and get all the proof that it's not true. Right? That's not how things are supposed to work. And just because we're able to go through that process, who can say one line without any proof, and who has any authority on what something is and how you should be political? That comes down to us, and we gave that power up. How you should be political is rule one. How you should be political. It might not be voting. Like I go back to, I don't want any other whatever. You guys make other examples at home or in your own minds. But boycotting, or I'm not going to buy a car, I'm going to ride the bus. Those are also political things. I want to give simple examples. There are thousands of them.
But
please go ahead.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. The only thing I want to say is that it's pretty much piggyback on what you say. Kind of piggyback on what you're saying is that again, my point, the thing I have to keep reiterating is that black people they just don't know. They don't, a lot of black people were just voted for the first time when Obama ran. They didn't know civics. They didn't know the 3 branches. They didn't know a lot of this stuff. They're just learning because they started to care for it. And the only reason why they started to care for it is because the one good thing about Barack is that they started seeing a reflection of themselves in the political government. That there was a chance.
You might as well call that another version of is politics the new prayer? Like,
it's religion.
Yeah, it's religion. Oh, I gotta see myself crucified like Jesus before I can believe it. It's ridiculous. It's elementary. Whatever, but hold on, before you continue, Mr. V, I just wanted to read this quote from Lyndon B. Johnson that I wanted to bring up because it ties into where the one dude was like, "Oh, I was born a Democrat." Lyndon B. Johnson said, where is it at? Johnson said that he would have the N-word voting Democrats for the next 200 years. That's one of the things he said. I think it was a private conversation he had with somebody, but he was right. He was right. I'll give these N words, nakers. I'll give these nakers enough butter biscuits, just make it feel like they fit in just enough, and I'll have them voting for the next, in the way we want for the next 200 years. And that's the part I think black people can't see. We can't see, like, look, and this goes into what Malcolm X has said in another video. I'll pull that up right now because it's not that long, so I'll play it.
We gotta go ahead and play that. We gotta play it.
Yeah, let me play it. Yeah. Where he says, where he talks about the two different parties or sides. Come on, man.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox, and a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling and you take him for a friend.
And see, that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Vidya. That's what I'm talking about.
But when he restricts an individual...
I'm sorry, all the stuff about they don't know... I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. The problem is, if you want to talk about they don't know something, they don't know military warfare. They don't know military tactics, and they don't know how to apply those tactics to their politics. Because I'll be honest with you, what Malcolm X did or did not do, or how he died, or all the different things that happened to him in his life, we can never teach our children any of that stuff. But if we taught them tactics, if we taught them logic, how to think, we get better results. We get better results. So that's the issue I see. That's the issue I see. So if you want to talk about what they don't know something, that's what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? They still think that Republicans are the devil incarnate, and that the Democrats, you know what I'm saying, are for black people. And I'm like, look, they're both the devil. One's a red devil, one's a blue devil. And we have to figure out ways to maneuver around that reality. But we can't get enough black people to see that. So when Mr. Unseen talks about a boycott, I'm like, look, I think boycotts are useless at this point. Like economic boycotts, I don't think they'll work. In most cases, there's probably some cases they could work, but in most cases, I don't think they work. The real boycott we need to have today is a political boycott. That's where our boycott energy needs to go. We need to be boycotting the hell out of Democrats. The hell out of those guys. Even if Republicans win, we have to be okay with that. We have to gird ourselves. That's part of a boycott. That sometimes your life might get a little harder, and you have to navigate around that because you see something that you could turn that into. You can leverage that into something greater in the future. And that's the issue that I'm having, even with people in the FBA community. I was just having a conversation with somebody on Twitter about a week ago, and he's hardcore FBA guy. He follows Tariq and stuff like that, and he was talking about Cornel West, and he was like, Cornel West, he's too all lives matter for me. I was like, why does that matter if he's serious about reparations? And I had to explain to him, I was like, look, we're 14% of the population. Cornel West can't run for president and only talk about black people. Well, he was like, well, did he specifically mention reparations? I was like, not only did he specifically mention reparations 5 hours, not just 5 hours ago on his Twitter, it said that he's a big proponent of it, and he's talked about his reparations for black people. He didn't say for Native Americans, for a whole bunch of people. He was saying specifically for us, but he was the only famous person who went to that first ADOS conference that I know of. He was the only first person who went there. I'm like, look, we got to put aside, all our little petty squabbles we have with people on Twitter, whether they be immigrants, whether they be Native Americans, whether they be Jews, whether they be white people. And we got to start making compromises and saying, hey, look, this man is the closest thing we have to Martin Luther King in modern times, and he's running for president. And I'm getting pushback from other black people about why we should vote, and he's for reparations. And I'm getting pushback because he said something nice about some gay people. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Checkers. It's like, dude, like, you attack him on that only when he's not talking about reparations. I could care less if he talks about it if he's for reparations. Get the money. Get the freaking money. I mean, why is it so difficult? This shouldn't be that difficult of a maneuver. Is the point I'm trying to make. Go ahead, man.
I think, and that's why we don't have the unity. Because when you see things like that, man, it's hard to unite. If people gonna do some stupid stuff, if I hate to look at it like that. If you know it's bad, and somebody says, "Well, yeah, I know it's bad, but you should come over here and do it because this is what we do." It's against the logic of a human. You can't if you put me being black over my survival, then in that case, in that political case, like I gotta vote for that party to be in the group. I can't be in the group. If you squeeze all of my politics into who I vote for, every move, or if you look at jobs we do, oh, if you ain't cool, if you do this job versus this job, you ain't black if you make money like this versus this one, you know. And a lot of times that's applied to in a legal versus the illegal sense. Oh, you got to trade, you dusty or whatever. But if you sell something whatever illegally, now it's cool. If that's the rules that they get to make and they change, and I was joking with someone else, we might even said it on the last podcast. Being black, if we want to be serious about it, we should be saying some people are still job turkeys and you dig, because that's the culture. Even though it was made before I'm born, if that's the real black culture, but you see it changes. In 4 years now, it will be something new that's stupid to do. And you'll have somebody new from that same party that you should vote for. I'm going to make the prediction. 8 years from now, they're going to scare you with somebody that you should vote Democrat for. And if you don't vote for them, then you're going to end up in some kind of slavery. They've been saying that for years, man. And you've been voting for years, and you've been begging for years.
And here's the funny thing about that, Mr. Unseen, that even intellectuals are affected by this type of thing. I'll never forget. And shout out to Green Gorilla because I love his content. But I was having a conversation with him on. I called into his show, and we were talking about whether or not black people should vote for Trump. Or his contention was don't think that because you vote for Trump that somehow you're going to get something out of that. And I was like, I don't disagree with that at all. To me, voting for Trump or not voting or voting for someone like Cornel West is a way to say fuck you to the Democrats and to get leverage over them in future elections, to hurt them, to say, hey, look, this is what we can do to you. We can make you lose every single time unless you capitulate to the things that we want. And you just let the shit burn.
I'd be careful on that one.
Why?
Because you may or may not have you done the numbers about if everybody didn't vote for them with the new statistics of people who may vote for that party, can they win or not? How important is your vote?
Well,
in numbers wise.
Well, it's a good question. I would say that tactic that I'm talking about is only, in my opinion, is only going to be useful up until like the next 30 years. You know what I'm saying? We might get another 50 years, maybe, because even though they're bringing a lot of immigrants here, stuff like that, you got to process them. And there's still a pathway to citizenship. And even if they become citizens, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote Democrat. A lot of them vote Republican. A lot of them are very conservative leaning. So I agree. It's not something that we can use indefinitely. That's why I say we're in a race against time. But right now, yeah, I think we do have the numbers, and Malcolm X is going to talk about that in another video that we're going to talk about how our power is in the margins because whites are evenly divided, and a lot of immigrants who come here are evenly divided as far as how they vote. I think immigrants vote a little bit more on the liberal side, but a good portion of them vote Republican. You know what I'm saying? But going back to my point about the intellectuals, I was having a conversation with him, and I called up because I was tired of them saying all this stuff about the type of black people who might vote for Trump. Yes, there are black conservatives who vote for Trump, and they're just as deluded as the black people who vote for Democrats. You know what I'm saying? They believe things that just aren't true. No, I don't think Trump is ever going to get his reparations. But I'm okay with either voting for him or letting him win by not voting for Democrats or voting for third party, just to hurt the Democrats, right? And when I called up and I told him that, Because I said that what happens is when we talk to the older folks, they try to scare us into voting for them. Oh, they gonna put you back in chains. And then he was like, well, how do you know they won't put you back in chains? I was like, the same reason why they didn't put us back in chains during the civil rights movement. Because it's gonna make them look bad across the world. It's gonna ruin their soft power. That's how you know when people tell you that stuff, that they're fucking bullshitting. Get out of my face with that. No, they're not gonna put us back in chains. It's not gonna happen. I shouldn't say it's never going to happen. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, a comet could hit the earth tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? A coup could happen in this country tomorrow. But what's more likely? More likely you're not going to be put back in chains if Trump wins. You know what I'm saying? He was in office for like 4 years. No one was put. We had more school shootings and muggings and a whole bunch of this shit on Biden than we did Trump. So this idea that you're going to be put back in chains because Republicans get in office is that's what I'm talking about. That's the religious part of it that upsets me, because it's like, at least if we're going to have this conversation, let's be intelligent about it. You know what I'm saying? And this is my problem, Mr. Villa. See, I can have a conversation with Mr. Nameless, and we can look at the logic of it. When I had to try to have this conversation with other black people, they go into religious mode. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. And that's why I'm like, look, man, if this is what blackness is turning into, if this is what it's going to be, it's over. Whether you agree with it or not, Mr. Villa, it's done. If we don't have like drastic changes in how we think about these types of things, man, it's a wrap. Whether they read about Malcolm X in his autobiography or not. Because there's a lot of those motherfuckers out there too. There's a lot of like pro-black motherfuckers who can read and talk about, well, this is what happened in 1967 and Marcus Garvey, whatever, and they still go out there and they vote for goddamn motherfucking Joe Biden.
I think you're really complicating everything. I just think it's really not that complicated. I mean, because other groups are surviving with less numbers than we do. And thriving because they understand that group economics and working together is the best solution to situations like that. I'm not going to do away with religion when it comes to black folks, because they helped us get through things.
To be fair, I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is they turn everything that we need to use either analytics or some kind of logic into religion. That's my issue. Have your religion, believe in your fairy tales. I don't give a goddamn. My problem is when it's time to get the money, when it's time to get the power, they go into religious mode. I was like, now's not the time to go in religious mode. Now's the time to go into the Malcolm X mode, into the Che Guevara mode, into the Fidel Castro mode. Now's the time to go into revolutionary mode. Now's the time to go into the part of the Bible where it says, slay your fucking enemies. But that's my problem. You see what I'm saying? I don't have a problem with people being religious, but they've turned something that should empower us into symbolic tomfoolery. Like it's ridiculous, some of the stuff that they say. There's no way the Democrats should have been able to get away with doing a "get your booty to the poll" ad, and black people still go out there and vote for them. There's no way they should have been able to get away with that.
Yeah. Well, again, it's due to a lack of knowledge. Due to a lack of knowledge.
I don't think it's like. I think it's a self-esteem thing. Like you said in previous podcasts, I think that, like you said, what did you say? It was something you said that we need to put on a T-shirt that they put white. What did you say? They put whites. They put the hurt feelings of white people over. I can't remember. You said, what did you say? This is your saying, Mr. Video. What was it?
White discomfort is more important than black pain, and I do believe that. A lot of people do not want to have white people because the reason being is because they rely so heavily. Their existence relies so heavily on white. Black people. You got to keep in mind now. The reason why a lot of black, especially the older generation, like here in Charleston, we made up the majority. Especially in Charleston, we made up the 80%. 80%. Excuse me, 70. Huh?
Not no more. Not in Charleston. Maybe North Charleston.
Yeah, well, I mean, but even then, well, the reason why I'm bringing that up is that in that time, we weren't allowed, we weren't allowed to vote. I mean, here in Charleston, hence that's the reason why in the South. That's the reason why my father and my mom, my father from Florida and my mom from here, met in New York and had me. I mean, because they looked for better opportunities. It was not about being a part, just voting for Democrats. It was just they understood that the vote, for the most part, you couldn't vote, and when you were able to vote, the vote wasn't. They found ways to rig it so your vote didn't count. The thing of it is that again, it goes back to what the point I was making earlier, is that a lot of black folks don't know this. They just think that you know, once we were able to vote, then everything changed for us, but it didn't. I mean, we just got the rights to vote in 1965, 19, and I was born in 1972. I mean, like 8 years, 7 years later, people don't understand. I mean, that's the reason why I'm just saying a lot of black people don't know. People make like this is all ancient history. It's not. You have to understand the through line. You got to understand how we got here. I got video footage of my great grandfather. His parents were slaves. I mean, this is not ancient history. You know, the thing of it is that I mean, black people. The reason why they get so, in your words, it becomes so symbolic and religious and stuff like that, is because that's the only thing that they could, that can hold on to. They can't believe in. I mean, the system. They don't put too much effort in it, or stock or knowledge in it, is because they understand, they already know the thumb is already on the scale for them. So any white person with a kind face who's willing to, listen to them or treat them nice, they're going to listen to. That's the reason why that, to your point, it is checkers for a lot of them,
That's why I
because
say I
that
think
was the
that's why I
only
say I
way.
think. But that's why I say I think it's more of a self-esteem thing than a knowledge thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's both. It's both. Because I mean, because you got to understand now. Because the reason being is that when you play videos of Malcolm when he was Malcolm Little, it was not a self-esteem issue. He was a crook. He was sleeping with white women. He was doing it.
That,
He
that's a, that's a,
he
that's a self
bumped authority.
no, that's a self-esteem thing, because if you look at how he was raised, he seemed to be raised right, but because the system itself nurtured him in a way, and black men in general, black boys in general, in a way, so that you kind of look down on your blackness. I mean, there's stories of him and Red Fox. Red Fox tells a story. They would go out and they would chase white women. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? They would
but
go out and they would go out and chase white women, and the white women, they didn't want him because they were too light skinned. And they were like, he was like all the white women who wanted to be with black dudes, they liked him dark, tall, big, and dark,
what?
whatever. But
Yeah,
the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of the dysfunction that I think we see in the black community is, a lot of it is rooted in self esteem, and we internalize that, and then we externalize it in very pathological ways. And we see that we see it with the doll test. There's a reason why the doll test is still relevant today. Why black children still say the same things they were saying back in the 60s or 50s, whenever was it Kenneth B. Clark did the test. It's a self-esteem thing, and I think it's permeated all throughout black culture, even in our politics. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's part of the problem, is that dude, you should hear some of the conversations I have with my parents sometimes. It's like they're so contradictory sometimes. I'm like, what? How is this possible that you could be so contradictory on these matters? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what we're dealing with.
It's a self-esteem issue, but again, it goes back knowledge itself, man. I not to sound like some 5%er, but it is the knowledge itself because the same thing because it comes full circle. I mean, like with Malcolm, I'm gonna stick with Malcolm because you played the video of Malcolm. It's like Malcolm, I agree with you that the system, he was raised right until the Klan killed his father. He was, because they were part of the Garvey movement. So he had some knowledge, but when they killed his dad, then it disrupted his whole family. And yeah, but again, he didn't put that much stock in it when he was a child.
Well, why
You
would he?
know,
Why
it
would he? Why
really
would he? Why would he though? If the men who he
exactly,
looked up to,
exactly,
who he saw
exactly.
as
I agree.
powerful, yeah, could just be snuffed out by this society. And I
Exactly.
think
That's what.
and I think that that's if you really want to talk about reparations, man, a big proponent of
It,
reparations needs to be therapy. Um, and getting the therapy we need so we can be functional human beings in this country who can create healthy families. If
yeah.
you really want to talk about a big part of that, I mean, that's the part that white people don't like to acknowledge. They don't. Oh, they'll say once you talk them down, say yeah, and they have to admit yeah, slavery was bad. It was somewhat unique. The type of slavery we had to us was somewhat unique. You did as bad for 200 or 300. Once you get a knowledge of that, they'll say, well, you just get over it. Other people have had bad stuff to do. But when you start talking about the psychological damage that was, they don't even want to touch that subject because because when they touch that subject, then they have to admit to all the things that we've been saying that needs to be done, and they don't want to do on our Facebook, on our Black Ops Media Facebook. I get two types of comments. I get black men who say, "Yeah, I like this video," or "I like this post that you did," or where, and I get racist white men or racist white men, and I usually delete their comments. And one guy was like, "Oh, you guys complaining and begging and whatnot." And what did he say? He said, "How do you think that's going to make everyone else feel if you get reparations and no one else has anything?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, are you on our Facebook page?"
No, looking at the money.
Talking about feelings?
No.
Yeah.
The money they give to all these other countries for random reasons.
You're not. Yeah, but
Man, if you want to talk about that, look at all the money they give to all these other countries for just the most randomest of reasons. So I'm like, you can't abuse this as a point. You have to get mad at the country for all the other money they just send to other countries before you get mad at that.
well, not just that, but I'm like, okay, when you start talk about history, Mr. Video, when you start talking about their history and all the freebies and goodies that they got, so they can be where they're at, so they can have a large middle class like they have today. You know what I'm saying? On top of that, when you talk about how all of them say they have Native American blood, but they're a bunch of $5 Indians, they literally lied about their heritage so they could get what Native Americans are supposed to get. Because he mentioned that too. I was like, because he was like, well, Native Americans should get reparations before you guys get reparations. And I'm like, Native Americans already get reparations. And I was like, you don't get it because you don't get it because you're not Native American. You're freaking white, pretending like you got Native American blood, like most of you do. You know what I'm saying? But before we go off into much of a tangent, I wanted to play this next part of H-Rap Brown's video. This is the 412 mark through the 530 mark, Mr. Unseen. Here we go.
Goes down and you begin to dwell and look from.
Hold on, I pressed the wrong thing. 412 mark. Here we go.
Again, when you begin to understand the whole system of education in this country, see, whatever you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Anything that you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Education has been used as a weapon against black people because black people have been trained to think a certain way. See, we do not control politics, so politics as it's known in this country is a weapon against black people. And we begin to examine what politics is, we find out it's no more than the apex of white cultural aggression, nothing more. When a man tells you that you can only become free through voting, then he is restricting your mobility, he's restricting your freedom. You were born free. You must exercise your rights to be free. See, that man cannot give you freedom. But when he restricts an individual and tells him that he can only become free by voting, then he has denied you your freedoms. He says this is politics. The only way you can become free is by being political in the white sense, or in the sense of this country. But politics in this country, you see, the whole thing, it refers again back to what Camus once raised. He says, what better way to enslave a man than give him the vote and call him free? Does black people absolutely no good to be able to vote unless we can choose who we're voting for? Then when it goes down and you begin to dwell and look further into the political system of this country, you find out that there is no political party that's anti-property. So where do we fit in? Whether that
It just gets back to that main point, right? You say you want something. What you want is not on the voting block. Are you being political in all the ways you should be? That's my point. What you should do is a different conversation. But if you're solely going to vote for one party or the other, the man said it yourself. That's something that they've given you to do, and whatever you want is not going to be baked into that result. And I'll let you guys go ahead and close.
This video here, this is Malcolm X talking about the position that black people are in and why. And this kind of goes to your question before, Mr. Unseen, about how much time do we have, considering our lowering population. Our population is declining, right? And what Malcolm X was saying was, we're in a unique position. Even though we're only 14% of the population, because whites are evenly divided on how they vote, a lot of the times the elections are close, so the battlegrounds are in the margins. So even though we have a small population, the way we vote can ultimately determine elections, especially in particular states. And this the power that we have that we don't utilize. And even Malcolm X could see it way back in the 60s. He could see it and no one listened to him. And they made politics into a religion instead of a tool for empowerment. And that's my issue. That's my largest issue that I see with the black community. And I'm gonna play the video.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block.
Right there. Now, how many elections have we had in the last 20 years where they've had to do that, whether it be local or national, where they've had to go back and count the votes because it was that close? So it's still relevant today, and we don't fucking listen. But I'm gonna keep playing.
Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they've brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump.
Chump.
A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
See, that's what I'm talking about, Miss Sevilla. That's what I'm talking about. That's my issue. That's my issue right there. We don't see the kind of power that we do have. We won't utilize the power that we do have. And I want to say a couple things about this. One, it's even worse now because they don't even make promises for us anymore. They just say nice things to us. They didn't even make promises because they didn't want. There was even remember there was a memo that came out. I think it was during the election between Hillary and Trump, and it was a memo that came up that was leaked. And in the memo, the Democrats were saying, don't promise them anything. You know what I'm saying? Just say good things. Just say you understand where they're coming from, but don't promise them anything. They don't even promise us nothing anymore. That's how bad it's gotten, Mr. Villa. They don't even promise nothing. And if they do promise, it's like the most mundane, whatever, we're going to do something about prison reform that don't really affect most black Americans. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't move our community forward in a way that empowers us, that brings more resources to the community. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing I'm going to say is, as I've been dealing in politics for the last 10 years, I've noticed one thing, and that is black men in particular are really shitty at politics. Black women kind of get it because they get certain butter biscuits from the Democratic Party, whether it's welfare, whether it's now student aid, or whether it's WIC or whatever. They can ride the white woman's feminist boat for butter biscuits. Black women, we don't get shit. You get all the flack if they lose, right? Because, black women, they vote for the Democrats in the 90 percentile range, and black, which is unheard of in most demographics, right? And then black men, we vote for Democrats in the 80 percentile range, but because we don't vote for them in the 90 percentile range, we get all the bullshit. We get the flack because the Democrats lose. So 80% is not enough. Nothing you ever do is good enough. You know what I'm saying? You got to be 90% like the black women. You got to be all in. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's why I say black men have the worst politics in the country. The worst politics. Why? Because we follow behind our women. No other people do that shit. If the nature of black politics is going to change in this country, it's going to be because of black men. We have to get mad enough, we have to get angry enough, and we have to be willing to burn down the political system as we see it today. Because a lot of it's resting on our backs, and we won't do anything about it. And Malcolm said it. And that's why after the 10 years that I've learned, I've been dealing with people, I've coined a new word. And it's based on his, or a new phrase. It's based on Malcolm X's phrase when he called black people political chumps. I call black men political simps. We're political simps. We refuse to act like real men and do things in a way that will bring power and resources to our community by doing proper politics, even if it means making black women mad, by saying, yeah, we're abandoning this goddamn party to do nothing for black men and black boys. Y'all can stay over there with Master if you want to, but we're either going to not vote, we're going to vote Republican, or we're going to vote third party until the Democrats capitulate to things that we want, and it's what black men want. Not what all black people want, what black men want. We have to have that type of organization if we're going to survive in this place. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. That's all I'm going to say. Someone else wants to comment?
Ooh, that's all I can say. Ooh. I thought Mr. Video was going to say something.
Oh, hello? Oh, okay. Well, oh no. I was just waiting to see how long it was going to take to try to steer this to the black women's fault.
I'm not saying.
But
look,
no,
I specifically said this is black men's fault. I did not say this is black men's fault. Black women are going to do what they're going to do. We know they're going to do what they're going to do. This is black men. There's no way in fucking hell in 2023 and 2024 well, we don't know yet. I'll say in 2020, in the last major election, that black men should be voting for Democrats in the 80 percentile range. There's no, they should only be getting like 30-40% of the black male vote at this point. That's black men's fault for falling behind black women. That's our fault.
Well, I would have to disagree on them following black women.
We can't say nothing. We can't say nothing negative about black women. Yeah, we just can't say nothing.
Because it's not no, it's just not their fault. But
I mean, it is. I'm not saying it's their fault. What I'm saying is black men's fault for not realizing the position that we're in. That's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to lead the community, and we're led by women. We're led by women. Why do you think they keep going on these shaming campaigns every time the Democrats lose? Well, black men should have done this. Black men should have done. Yeah, white women who are supposed to be so liberal, right? But like 50% of them vote for Republican. Why don't they get the blame? That's the point I'm trying to make. We black men have to stand up. We got to stop being afraid to offend white people. Stop being afraid to offend Asian people. Stop being afraid offend Native Americans. And stop being most of all, stop being afraid of offending black women. We got to stop that, because what's going to happen is it's already happened. Look what they did to Ice Cube. He didn't tell anybody to vote differently. He just said, "Hey, look, I got this plan. We need to listen to both sides." And they treated that man like shit, man. And I'm not saying just black women. I'm talking about the media in general. That's the point I'm trying to make. No one's on our side. And black men who keep following this Democratic line, they're a bunch of simps. They're political simps. They're foolish. Foolish. If we want real change, black men have to go out into the wilderness. There's no other way around it. What I mean by that is politically, we have to go out into the wilderness. We got to leave all that shit behind, because it ain't working for us anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna be quiet, let somebody else speak. That's actually my last words. That was the last video I wanted to show. So this really could be our closing thoughts if you guys want. We've been doing it for a while now. Mr. Nameless, you didn't want to say anything for your closing?
I'm good. I'm good.
No, I said Nameless.
I mean, what it seems like to me, like I was saying, a lot of people, I feel like they're comfortable with the lives they have, and they don't want to sacrifice themselves like Martin Luther King. That's a lot to do in a big position to put yourself in, is to change something that majorly. You have to make some sacrifices, and I feel like people don't want to make these kind of sacrifices anymore. I feel like they're just kind of content with just letting, I guess, black people die out and like that. Because I mean, if you're comfortable enough, you can stay satisfied with that, you know. And I feel that's kind of the situation we're in.
Read this right here. Read this out to me right here. Oh, right here. Read this out. Read that out. What does that say?
Some of the median wealth of black Americans will fall to zero by 2053. But I mean, it's not like a bunch of black people are screaming about this. I mean, they would be trying to tell something about the government, but they aren't complaining about this. They're just gonna sit by and not say anything. They'll wait till the last moment when it's too late and then complain. That's how we've always done things. From my point of view, that's how I see it. They wait till somebody's dead, then to complain, not so before they're dead. That's how it is.
I wanted you to read it because I'm like, and this is where I do agree with Mr. Avidia. We don't listen to the right media. If you're still listening to Tom Joyner, I think his show is in and out, but if you're still listening to a Steve Harvey show or Roland Martin show or whatever, and you're not listening to the emergent knowledge or wisdom concerning the black community, how can you be comfortable when the median wealth is going to be zero by 2053? When AI is about to, we're going to do a show about this, it's going to take 30% of jobs, by 2050 or something like that?
Yeah, most definitely is with that AI. But I mean, I guess people, like you said, people become more individuals than like a group. As an individual, you might do okay, and that's okay. But as the rest of the group's gonna fall. That's what's gonna happen.
All right. Anybody else have any last words? We'll end it there.
I'm good. I'm good. I would like to say what I want to get into the next time for our next show for those who listen in. Is we're gonna break it down into political missions, and we kind of hinted at that, and what your particular political mission may be, because what your mission is going to dictate what your politics are, right? If you want X, Y, and Z, it means you move in this type of manner, and if you want to do A, B, and C, what you're going to do is going to be different. and I've got some groups we're gonna talk about, but we'll save that for the next show. Thank you everyone for listening to my part.
You said political missions.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to write that down. So I'll the next show. All right, Mr. V. Any last words?
No, I would just like to say thank y'all for allowing me to be a part of the podcast, and really enjoy the engagement. It keeps my mental sharp, in my old age. So I thank you for that. So
Dude, I would have never guessed you
yeah,
were born in '72, man.
yeah, I was born in 22,
Never guessed that.
but thank y'all. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for coming up. Thank you also, Mr. Nameless.
Yeah.
And
Thanks guys for coming.
yeah, we'll do this again in another 2 weeks, and I'll end it here. Oh, thank you, audience. Also, like, subscribe, and share.